Right. We are guiding abundance tonight. I'm Arla, and we have Sam, um,
Hello.
who's here. This is going to be another one of our wing it shows. And Sam and I have a lot of conversations, and it's like we slide into this conversation about pretty much anything, and then it takes us somewhere. We're gonna try to slide into something. If you've got a question about something, put it in the chat or on the page on Guiding Abundance, and we'll see what we can find out about that. I mean, we're up to discuss pretty much anything, and it helps. And one of the interesting things that happens when you start to do this is it's like you have an aha moment. You're talking about something, but it leads you somewhere else, and all of a sudden you go, that's exactly the answer that I was looking for. So that's where we're going to go. We don't really have anything particular. Maybe we might talk about Ascension some. So if you've got ideas on what Ascension is, you're welcome to come on. Just message Sam or put it in the group, and we'll bring you in and see what you've got to say. And if you've got guests that you would like to hear, we would like to hear about who you want to hear.
Yeah.
And see what we can bring to that. This has been a busy week for a lot of people, a lot of stuff going on. So there's always something to talk about as to what's going on in the universe.
Yeah, it's been crazy busy. I don't know. I mean, like people that we've had lined up for like future shows and past shows, everyone, it just seems like there's so much going on right now. Like, we're just waking up from a 1-year nap. We kind of are. So everything's just, so we're just going to go with the flow for a while, because it seems like the universe has that in mind for us right now. So we're going to go with it. And all right, sorry, adjusting my stuff.
Thank goodness for Sam's technical abilities. We'd be in a world of hurt if Arla had to do it.
It's funny you were talking about like how when you start talking about one thing and it leads you somewhere else and you have like your aha moment. I was thinking about that this morning, because that's what I do a lot. I go and just go in the woods and just talk to the trees, or just talk out loud a lot. And that's how I get my answers most of the time. And because there's sometimes my head just turns into like an echo chamber of thoughts, and they just start bouncing off of each other, and I have to get them out. So I just go out and talk, and I just get it out, and it clears space to receive the answers that I'm looking for. And I was just thinking about how many times I've been in the woods, and I'll just ask a question, and in the middle of the question, I'll get the answer, and it'll start off as like a serious question, and then halfway through the question, I start to laugh because I got the answer before I even finished asking, and so I'm like laughing at myself about how that works. So this works the same way.
Yeah, the ancestor grandmothers that have been two of my guides for a very, very, very long time told me a long time ago that we already have all the answers inside us. We're just waiting for the questions. Mm-hmm. And so that's basically what you're doing. You're putting that question out there, And then here comes the answer. So where does the answer come from? The answer comes from within.
Yeah.
And, you know, that's a pretty important thing to think about. We've already got all the answers inside us. We already have that connection to this huge depository of information. We just have to let the questions come, and then the answers do too.
Yeah, and you have to ask. That's part of the thing, is we become, and I'm not speaking for everyone, but a lot of us become like kind of complacent, you know, and we just expect things to come to us, and you kind of forget that, like, you have to ask, because we have our support group just waiting for us to ask. We just kind of assume that, you know, they'll come to us when they need to, but it's like, no, they're waiting for you to ask. Like, you have to ask for help, ask for guidance, ask the questions, and then the answers will come.
Yeah, and that's, I have, so, you know, people say all the time, well, this is probably a silly question. No, there are no silly questions. A question is a question and deserves an answer. It may not be for me to answer your question, you know, but the one thing that I hope to do is help to guide you or support you, whomever, as you're finding those answers to your questions. I know a friend sent me a photo today, and like normal, people say, well, what do you see? Well, my thing is, I ask them back, what do you see?
Right.
And so, you know, then this person told me what they saw. I saw it immediately when they said that. And that wasn't a suggestive thing to get me to see it, because they didn't explain exactly where everything was. They just said that, and it was like, boom, it was right there. And, you know, the comments were, you know, I didn't know if anyone else would see this or not.
Right.
And, you know, my answer back is, we see what we see, and we don't always see what other people see. But the important thing is that we see what it is we need to see.
Yeah.
And that's where we work from.
Yeah, it's that's the thing. Yeah, a lot of the stuff is personalized for us individually. So some people might not see anything. That's, you know, that's the commonality with a lot of the pictures that people share. And then you see people like, I don't see anything. It's like, well, you might not be meant to see it. So
Yep.
yeah, if someone's asking you to see something, you might see something completely different than they see. Yeah.
And
That's how your
that's how
thoughts
it
are
is.
too. That's how your inner
Yeah.
dialogue is, and when you're speaking with yourself or whoever. Yeah.
That's the cool part, you know, to know that, you know, you ask that question, and I've talked with you, and that very thing has happened. You know, we've been talking about a question, and then it's like, oh, and, you know, and we've talked about, you know, when you ask a question, you could get an answer in many different ways. You could get it from a television commercial that has nothing on the surface to do with what the question was. You can get it just boom, going down the road, and it just pops in there. And like you were talking about, you barely got the question out, and there was the answer.
Yeah.
You know, so those answers, and they can come at any time. They don't have to come right after you ask the question. You put that question out, and if you're ready to receive it, then they're going to send it to you somehow.
Yep. And it's not always going to come as it's not always going to come as you expect it to. Most of the time it doesn't.
No, that's for sure.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
And a lot of the times it's nuanced, or comes in like a riddle or with another question.
Hmm.
Yeah. And it's like, it's fun, man. It makes it fun. It's like a game, you know?
Yeah, it is. It is. And I love looking for things. And it's always with Kashima, he would bring something to me, and then I would go on this hunt to look at information
Mhm.
about this. He's already given me this information, and there may be a question attached to it. And so I look for it in many different ways. I could research for it. I could go into meditation for it. I could just walk around outside and ask,
Right.
but I'm going to get it when I can understand what I'm being given.
Mhm. Yeah. The first time I met V, uh, me, before I even had a teacher, me getting a teacher was always a big thing for me. And so seeing my teacher was a huge thing for me. It was like a big deal. And so when I first met her, it was a big emphasis. Like I wanted to see her with my physical eyes, and I don't think I did ask afterwards, but it was more of like she knew I wanted to see her. And so what did she do? She took me to where we're one, where we are, where we come, like where we are one, being of light. And it took me a while to get this, but it was like I asked to see her and she showed me, this is what I am, this is what you are. And I was like, okay, I get it. And then when we came back from that journey, I remember asking if I could see her in physical, like if I could come and see her in the physical. And I was like, I was out like a light, just fell asleep. And I was like, okay, I get it. I'm not ready for it yet. I get it. So, yeah. And I think that I put so much of an emphasis on seeing them, Sasquatch people, seeing her, seeing them is like such an important thing to me. I think that it's kind of been emphasized that I need to take the importance off of that, and focus on other things that are.
That's when you see it. That's like with the grandmothers. I tell that story about seeing the grandmothers. I knew they were there, and I kept praying, to be able to open myself up to see them, and and it was like this overriding thought of, you're channeling through me, but I don't know what you look like.
Right.
And so it was like, I really really want to know what you look like. And then I finally like, well, I'm not gonna ask anymore. I'm just gonna let it be. And boom, that was the day that I did see them. And the interesting thing was, when I actually saw them, they let me stay with that image for a while, but then they ended up showing me the truth of the matter.
Yeah.
So it's like, well, okay, this is not exactly what I saw at the first, but I understand, what you're telling me now.
Right.
So
yeah, I get that. It's yeah, no, I get it. It's really hard to explain. It's hard to put
it's
stuff in
very human.
Yeah.
It's very human to want to see. And we see in all kinds of ways. We don't have to see with our eyes to see something or to know something. It can come in any way. A feeling is a knowing. when you feel a certain way about something, that's a knowing too. And it's a kind of seeing. The same with communication. We want to hear things verbally, but communication comes in all kinds of forms. I mean, communication comes in the written form. Communication comes with a thought that comes into us. And so it doesn't have to be an audible thing to have a communication going on with our guides or, whomever.
Yeah. That was kind of the emphasis that was given to me too during that, when I was like wanting to see serious about it. It was kind of like a underlying message of like, why? Like, what does it matter? I'm like, I don't know. It's just important to me, I just, and it kind of was like, well, make it not so important. I'm like, okay, I got it,
I need help here.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with asking for help from your guides to help you get through something and to let it go. So all we have to do is ask.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and it's not important. It really isn't, to see. And that's the funny thing, like, I don't try to take pictures of them. I don't try to get videos of them. I like to listen to them. And there's definitely like a message in that. Just like that's my, I don't know how to put this in words. I guess that's like how I like to gather my physical evidence is just to listen to them and hear them and like do audio of them. And I don't try to take pictures of them, even though they have appeared in my pictures before. I'll try to take video of them, but for some reason, just like that physical seeing them in real life is just something I've always craved, and I don't know if I'll ever get rid of that fully, because I still,
you might not.
Yeah.
And that's doesn't mean either that you won't see them in the physical. I've seen a lot of people and been with people who have wanted to see and wanted to see and wanted to see. And then when they finally do, it's like they're wiped out, wow. And, it runs with people as to how seeing them, the people, in other words, as to how you handle it.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, I've had a few sightings, and I don't know, this could be, now that I think about it, it could stem from the first time I ever I had a physical visual sighting of one, and that was when I was 8, and it was in my bedroom, and it scared me so badly. Maybe that's like a subconscious thing that I have to work through, where I want to redeem myself or something, because I was so scared, when I was a child, that I don't know, maybe it is something I want to work through. But I do still, want to go out into the woods and just
be able to, it's amazing to have that happen. Having it happen at a young age for me, and of course, my first interaction was not the least bit scary. And I've never been afraid, all my whole life, but I had that grandmother that taught me about them. And, was just never taught to fear anything. I was taught to be cautious, but not to fear. Now, my mom, on the other hand, she was afraid of everything. Don't go up there on the hill by the water tower. There are wolves up there. They'll haul you off into the woods. And of course, what did I do? I snuck off up there. I don't think I ever saw a wolf up there. So, but that was her nature, to be that way. With my grandmother, I just was never taught fear of anything, but I was also taught a healthy dose of respect too. And, not to act ugly to anything or anybody. And that's just how it's been for me.
Yeah.
So I don't, do you remember exactly what the one looked like when you were 8?
Yeah. I mean, not crystal clear, because it was so brief, and it wasn't a scary encounter. It was a very, I was laying in bed, and it was in the summertime, so it was getting late, darker, or sorry, it was getting darker later. So it was probably 9:30 at night, and I was trying to go to sleep, and so there was still some sunlight or enough light in the room that you could see, and on the other side of my dresser was I don't remember what it was that made me open my eyes. I heard like a noise or something, and when I opened my eyes, I looked over, and there was a little hairy person standing on the other side of my dresser, looking at me. Didn't look like it didn't really have like a real human face. It had kind of like almost an Ewok face. I don't know if you remember Ewoks from Return of the Jedi.
Mm-hmm.
And it smiled and laughed, and that was it. It wasn't menacing at all, but it just it's like, it just scared me because you don't expect that.
Yeah.
And I closed my eyes, and when I closed my eyes and when I opened them back up, they were gone. So that was the same year I started going to the cabin too. And I know the two are connected, but it just, and I didn't have anyone to talk to about it for, what year did I meet you? For
a while ago.
That was 1985 when that happened. So that was 85, and so yeah, it's like
I think we actually met in 2013, the beginning of 2013.
Yeah. So.
But I didn't talk about my encounter either to people. I mean, I had my grandmother, of course, but we just didn't, go talking about it. It wasn't general conversation that you would bring up to other people. Plus the fact that we didn't talk about them because that was just something we didn't do.
Yeah.
That was a respect thing. And plus the fact that at that time, you think people think you're crazy now? Oh, back then, so, but there again, I think it was 49 or the beginning of 1950 where I got that picture of my grandmother where she's doing the Bigfoot walk.
Mm-hmm.
And, so she was being silly is what she was doing, but they took a picture of her doing that. So within the family, they talked about it, but she grew up in the Boston Mountains in Arkansas. And, they were there. So.
Right. Yeah, we didn't have, I can't think of anyone in my family that it will admit it anyways, because we have family property in Alabama. We have a few hundred acres of family farmland in Alabama, northern Alabama, and it wouldn't surprise me one bit, just because of how active Alabama is, that they've been on the property there. Whether anyone in my family would admit it or talk about it, I've tried to drag it out of all of them that have lived on the property, but nobody will talk about it. But when you get down to there's a creek that borders the whole property, and it's heavily wooded down there. and that creek's really nice, and there's no doubt in my mind that somebody's experienced something down there at some point, you know.
Oh yeah, yeah. And you know that even from the fact, like yourself and like a lot of other people that we've come in contact with, they had an encounter, and some of them had multiple and never told anybody about it for years and years and years.
Right.
But one of the interesting things too that I find, I was in South Dakota with the company that I was working for, and they didn't know about me as far as what I have done in my life, and until I gave one of them a book. And we were eating in a little cafe there, and one of the girls said something about my book, and one of the other guys said, "You got a book? What's your book about?" And I told them, and one of the owners said, "You know what? I had a sighting several years ago. I was down on the river and had a sighting." And it was just like, oh,
Right. Just
But
matter
it
of fact.
wasn't something that they would just talk about with anybody. But here we were in a group of people that all knew each other, and being a boss, I guess they could say what they wanted to. But I find that a lot, that people open up that you don't expect to open up.
Yeah. Yeah, the cabin, there's stuff that's happened at the cabin since I was a child, and I know that people there have experienced things. And like I said in a episode or a show we had a couple weeks ago, like I've basically tried pulling, it's like pulling teeth with these guys, but they have so many different stories of things there. There's like these legends and myths, and things that happen, like the Indian squaw, who there's a sometimes at night there is a there's a someone will sing. It's like a female opera singer. Sometimes you'll hear her on the lake and it will just echo everywhere. And so that was dubbed the Indian squaw. And we were told as kids, like, if you're up at night, late at night, the Indian squaw is going to come and get you. And so,
Oh yeah.
And for years we were like, okay, we'll be quiet. And then, but not really thinking about it. And then a couple years ago, I was on the property and we had a fire going, and it was me and one other guy, and that singing started on the lake. And I was like, I just looked at him and I said, "Do you hear that?" And he looked at me, and he had like this look on his face of, it was like confusion but concern. And he said, "I've never heard that before in my life." And I was like looking at him and I was like, "You're so full of shit." Like, come on, man, just open up to me, because I know you've heard that. And he walked in the cabin, didn't stay outside anymore.
Yeah.
And I just wonder, like, I wish that we all, as like as a society and culture, would just be honest with each other and open about these things. I hate the fact that we can't just talk about this stuff so openly.
I know. But people don't like to be ridiculed at all.
I know, yeah.
And that's a hard thing. And that's where, if people would just listen, they don't have to believe it, but just give a person the respect to relate something, and hopefully it's getting better. I see more and more people now who don't have a problem with expressing things that have happened to them that are definitely out of the normal. And I know people now who still to this day had an encounter and will tell people they did not.
Right.
So it's, it's all in that personal thing. I know I was at a camp out with some people down around Honubby, and they were all around us in the cabin and had done some really funny things. One of the things they did was one of the guys' cars, he'd left his windows down, and he went out and there were all these little colored glass rounds that you see for, decoration and stuff. And then we were talking about it. And so he rolled his windows up and locked his car. And the next morning, there was a bunch of them in the passenger seat. So, they were doing different things. And this person believed that they existed, had some sightings and encounters, but nothing good enough to be able to sketch it.
Yeah.
Well, we were riding in a pickup. Well, I was on a fifth wheel, or not a fifth wheel, an ATV, and with a friend, and the others were in the pickup. He was in the back of the pickup, and we heard a whistle. They stopped. They looked off, and he saw him clearly. So they turned around, went back up to the cabin, and he began to sketch him.
Nice.
He had him sketched perfectly. By the time we left that weekend, he had talked himself out of the sighting.
Right. Yeah.
He just couldn't deal with it. And that's not just in the world of the Bigfoot people or Sasquatch. That's in pretty much anything that someone would see that is outside the norm for what they accept in life. It could be fairies, it could be dogman, it could be spirits, it could be pretty much anything.
Yeah.
And you can just totally talk yourself out of something that happened.
Yeah. It's hard too, because we're we're conditioned and programmed from birth basically to believe certain things, and then when you experience something like that and it doesn't fit into a, if it's a square piece and you've got a triangle hole and you're trying to make it fit into what you believe, it's just not going to work. So you either just discard it, or you cut that corner off to make it a triangle, and then it fits. But then, that corner that you cut off is where it opens you up. Like that's like the that's the seed that needs to be planted. And it frustrates me. I mean, to see that, and not frustrates me like I get mad, but it's just like, come on, just open up a little bit, and then it takes time. Obviously it's not, but I think, I guess for me, it took me, I was 8. And then how long did that take, for that to open up to,
yeah.
So,
but that feeling of wanting people to open up to this is because you've experienced that opening up to it, and what all it's brought to you, and that's the thing. When you have that experience, these kinds of experiences, when you get to that point to be able to share, you want to share with other people. You want them to feel the joy, the enjoyment, everything about it, because it's just like, this is awesome. I so want this for you. I want you to be able, to feel this. So, that's very understandable.
Yeah. And And when you allow that piece that doesn't fit in your narrative, like when you allow that to come in, it just, that creates that crack in your story, or that crack in what you've been taught, that just it can turn into a, that's just when like the levee breaks and just everything can come in, and
Yes.
it can shatter your whole paradigm. And that's the thing people are scared of so much.
Yeah.
And that's
And
why people
yeah.
deny it.
Oh, for sure. People are so afraid to find out that a belief that they have held so strongly is not the truth. And, people think about that. And the thing about that is, when you have a belief shattered, you begin to ask yourself, okay, what else that I believe
Yeah.
is not the truth? And that's a scary road for some to go on.
Most, I'd say, like
You
most
know,
people. Yeah. Yeah.
so you just have to be ready and know that anytime you start walking closer to spirit, be it through an encounter with them, a relationship with them, an encounter of fairies or little people or dogman or any of the numerous. I mean, you can go to dragons, you can go to so many things. When you get past that fear and open up to this, that's that first door that gets opened up. And if you're ready to open up and look at these things, then it's not near as scary, to walk into this and realize that there's so much more in life. And it's just awesome. I get excited anytime something new comes, or a new thought is brought forward, or whatever. I get excited, and I want to know more about that thing.
Yeah. Yeah. When you get introduced to those, that new thing, and if you open that door, like, you gotta, it's scary. I understand that. I don't knock people for doing it, because it is, if you base your whole identity around this certain belief system that you have, and then something shakes that tree a little bit, you're going to hold on to it. So I understand. But if you just take the step and be honest with yourself and go through that door, man, that's when you find yourself and you realize, holy crap, like this is nothing like what I thought it was. And then that's when it can get scary for a lot of people. And, they might be like, I don't know who I am if I don't have this belief, so
Right.
they hold on
Right.
super tight. And then, like, what I had to do was, when I started realizing all the things, not all the things, but most of the things I've been taught since childhood were not necessarily fake, but just not all the truth, not the whole truth. And we're only taught like a sliver of the truth, and the rest of it is conditioning, basically. And then, so you have to, like, or what I had to do was, I had to take everything that I thought was important to me, and kind of to take it off, like remove it and set it in the corner for a little bit, and then just strip myself down to what do I need? I need air, food, water, my family, and then just kind of go through life a little bit different, look at everything from a different perspective, more open. And then as you go along, you can start taking things back. Like, no, I like college football. So I can still watch college football and be a spiritual person, or I like coffee, I like ice cream, like, so it's,
Uh,
it's tricky, and I understand, but you can also just become your true self and open yourself up to the spirit, or to spiritual stuff, and still be yourself. You could still be that person. I think that's that people fear the change part so much, of being
yeah, I'm going to
somebody.
have to give this up. That reminds me of something. As a child, the church that I grew up in, and I'm very thankful that I grew up in this church, because I did learn a lot and was surrounded by wonderful, wonderful women. And that gave me a big basis for who I am. But there were rules within that church. Number one, you couldn't wear pants. You had to wear dresses. Your hair had to be long. You couldn't wear makeup. You couldn't, there were just things that you didn't do as a member of that church.
Right.
And the members weren't like a lot of churches or things have members. I mean, you could be a member without anything. You were part of that church. But I remember as a young girl when I was what they call saved. I had given my heart and had asked for cleansing. And I remember going home and I was so excited, and I told my mom, I got saved today and all this other stuff. And she said, well, you can't wear pants now. You can't wear jewelry. You can't do this. You can't do that. And my whole bubble was just burst.
Yeah.
But the truth of the matter is, who I am spiritually is so much like that little girl in the joy of being connected to spirit, whomever a person calls spirit for them. And it's like we have these rules in our head. Well, if I'm going to do that, then I'm probably not going to be able to do this. If I'm this spiritual person who does all of this stuff, then I can't do that.
Right.
And that's, unless you're talking about hate and all that other stuff, that's so totally wrong. We are who we are. And, watching football is not going to, mess up your ascension.
Unless you let it. Unless you let it consume you. Right.
Yes. And you can let anything consume you in a wrong way. You can let your spirituality consume you and take you down a path you probably shouldn't be going down. So, that's part of being a human. We make gurus out of so many things.
Yeah.
And, when the truth is, we're all gurus and there are no gurus. And both of those things are the truth.
Right. Yeah. And going back to you saying like the little, you as a little kid, like our spirit is our inner child. Like that is our true self. And so when you come into the world, when you're born, you're basically the physical manifestation of as close to your true self as possible. But you just don't know how to operate this vessel yet, so you go through all the stuff in your life and you're conditioned and you're trained and you have traumas and all these things kind of just accumulate on you, and you kind of drift from being spirit and being your true self and your inner child. And then you have to learn all the stuff that comes with being a human and then get that stuff off you and become your inner child again. And then once you realize that, like, you can still be a child at heart, because that's who's in your heart is your inner child and your spirit, because that's where you reside, is in your heart. And that's when life becomes like amazing, because then you're just truly open at that point. Are you familiar with the allegory of the cave, or Plato's cave story?
No, I'm not.
It's something that Socrates used to speak about, but it's basically so there's 3 prisoners that live in a cave, and they've been in the cave for so long they don't know anything else of the cave, and so they're all chained up and they face one wall. There's 3 of them. They're all facing a wall, and all they can see is shadows moving on the wall. So they've been in there for so long, all they know are the shadows on the wall. And eventually they start to believe that those shadows on the wall that's reality. Like that's all they know. That's what's real, you know. So they see a shadow, they hear a noise, and they know that like that's such and such and blah blah blah. And one day, one of the prisoners breaks out of his chains and he turns around and he sees a fire that's behind them. And there are people that are projecting that have like different things with shapes, and the fire is projecting the shadow on the wall. And so he realizes that everything that he thought was real was just a projection that was, projected on the wall in front of him. So he gets up and he walks past the fire and he goes outside and goes out of and like, it's bright, and he goes outside and there's a whole world that he had no idea about. And he spends some time out there and he like walks around and examines everything. And then he just realizes that everything that he thought was real up until that point was fake. Like it was projected onto a wall by people in a fire. And so he stays out and he learns a bunch of stuff, and he's like, I gotta go tell the other guys. So he goes back into the cave to tell them what's really going on. And when he goes into the cave and he tells the other two prisoners, you guys, this isn't real. You got what you think is real is not real. The reality's out here. But he's been outside for so long now that he can't see in the dark anymore. And so he's having a hard time like walking around in the room with them. And so when they see him stumbling around and not being able to see anymore, they think he's gone crazy. And they don't want to believe what he's talking about, because they're like, look at him. Like he can't even walk in here anymore. Like he doesn't even know what he's doing. He's crazy. And so they tell him to go away and don't ever come back. And so he's like, no, I'm trying to help you guys. I'm trying to help you. There's stuff over here. And they're like, get out of here. You're crazy. So it's basically just an allegory or a tale, just talking about awakening to our true self. And when you come back into try to tell people that you care about what's really going on, or you want to help them, and they're hesitant because they're scared, and they're like, I don't look at you. You're crazy. What are you talking about? I don't want to hear that. Just go away. And I was told that story once, and it always stuck to me because it lays it out. I don't even know if I told it in a good way or not, but it just like lays it out so well for me.
Well, yeah, it does. And that it's very much so, because we both have experienced that opening or understanding. And, the thing you want to do is to help others, to feel that. And you do get that. You're crazy. Because I've got it a lot. It doesn't really bother me, but it is the fact that if you're gonna come to someone, and especially if you are like those people, and now you've had this understanding or epiphany, they're really gonna look at you and say, yeah, I don't know about that. I don't know what's happened to you, but you're not the person we knew.
Right. Yeah.
And one of the sad things about that is, in the world of Bigfoot research and people, and I have actually seen relationships that suffered greatly because someone opened up and had an encounter, or felt something. They go home, they tell this other person that, and the other person's like, no, I don't know who you are. That's not right. There's something wrong with you. And so it doesn't even have to just be with people that you're really not close to. Change is scary for a lot of people. And especially if you're talking about the things that we talked about, it's really going to be a little hard for some people.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially this stuff, this topic right now. I mean, even spirituality is kind of a hard hard pressed on some people. At least, like, you know, I grew up in the city. Spirituality is not something that city folk openly talk about. I mean, it's just not an ingredient in living in the city. It's not, you know, that's about as removed from spirituality as you can get for the most part. And when you're surrounded by thugs and, you know, tough guy bravado and just like fights and all that stuff, you know, like the last thing people want to hear about is spirituality. It's actually like it's like a common thing where you get like Muslim in a lot of the ghettos where I lived, like you'd have the Muslim influence coming in and trying to teach like brotherhood and peace and love and stuff like that. So it happens like all throughout the city. It's not just, you know, it's like there's all these different spiritual elements that are trying to creep their way in, and they're just shunned or just like, shut up, man, we don't want to hear that, you know. And if you try to talk about this stuff, you try to talk about UFOs or you know, Sasquatch and stuff, it just, man, you might as well you know, get me run out of everywhere.
You know, yeah, but in that circumstance of being in that city, most of those people are just trying to survive day to day.
Right.
You know, so what's this going to benefit them? You know, that's what's on their mind. How's this going to help me? This is not going to, you know, do anything for me. When the truth is, if they would just open up and see things in a different manner, then hopefully that would begin to change their life.
Yeah, and it goes back to what we were just talking about, because if they did open up to it, man, it would change everything for their life. And it would, yeah. And it's funny because I always thought that a lot of my friends growing up, being city folk, you know, were very open to a lot of things, you know. But they're still so closed off to that type of stuff, and it always catches me off guard because I'll, you know, try to spark up a conversation sometimes with someone I think's a little, you know, just more open, and it's like, oh wait, never mind, like I forgot. Yeah.
Yeah, it's you know, it is interesting, the people who you think might be open, and then the people who you think might not be that are.
Right.
And that really surprises me, you know, a lot of times, talking to people and stuff. Because I mean, I don't have any problem telling anybody, you know, how I believe, or, you know, how I feel, or that I see fairies and little people and dragons, you know, the hairy people and, you know, Dugman and on and on and on. And, you know, I've talked to this person from Arcturus and ascended master, you know, and all of this stuff. So I don't have a problem sharing that. It is who I am. And, you know, I'm not going to throw it in your face, but, you know, if a conversation starts, then, you know, I don't have a problem sharing that. I mean, there are going to be people who are going to make fun of you no matter what you say, you know, or what you do. So if you're yourself, if you are in touch with who you are, then all you can do is share. Plant those seeds.
Yeah, but it's funny because I've had conversations with some friends from the city or from my younger days, and you know, they might poo-poo what I'm saying, and I'm like, we'll come out. Let's go out one night. I know I'll take you to this place, and we'll just sit, you know, and just we'll see what happens, you know. No, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. Like, okay. All right. Well, then, you know, like what else do you want me to do? Like I'm trying to prove this to you, or not even prove it, but just be like, just come see.
Open it up for you.
Yeah, you might experience something that might change your thoughts. And I don't know anyone that's been cool with it, to be honest. I mean, cool with it, like open to it, but I haven't met anyone that's like really wanted to go. Oh, actually, I take that back. I have one friend, and this is a good story actually. I just remember this. Um, one friend was into it, and this was in Georgia, and we went to a. I took him to a place. It was about 1 o'clock in the morning. I took him to a place that is a state park, and you know this place. You've actually been there before, and so I brought him there, and there's an area that we used to go to. It's a different part of the state park, and it's not frequented as much. It's very heavily wooded, and there's a couple trails through it, but there's a fence that separates it from this neighborhood on that end of the park. And so to get in through there, you kind of have to sneak in through a fence, allegedly. Sneak into the fence. So we get to the fence, and I mean, like we took a step, we got to the fence. I go into the fence, like squeezing through the gate, and he's on the other side. And when I squeezed through, something in the grass that was right there by the edge of the woods jumped up and ran full speed through the grass into the woods like that. And he was like, whoa, what was that? And I was like, it was dark. I wasn't using a flashlight or anything, because I told him one of the things is like, I don't use flashlights. I just walk through the dark. And when it ran through, he was like, what was that? And I was like, I don't know, man. I don't know. Like, are you coming or not? from that point on, he was so scared.
Yeah.
So scared that I had to like basically hold his hand the whole way down the trail. We got down to the creek, and something ran across the creek, because the creek there is kind of shallow. It's like maybe shin deep, and so something ran from the side of the creek we were on to the other side of the creek, and it was like, and I don't know, it could have just been hogs or something. I'm not real sure, but he was scared, and he was just ready to go. And he was literally, when we were walking on the trail, he was right behind me. I could feel his breath on my neck. That's how scared he was. So anyways, I was like, do you want to go back to the car, man? He was like, yeah. And I was like, all right, cool. So we walked back to the car, and he never asked me again to come out, but he's never doubted me either. So
Yeah.
it was a good experience.
Well, it's just not his thing.
No.
I have a family member who's always wanted to have an encounter. And truth is, they had an encounter, but I had asked them to come out to the cabin while I was gone and put some things away for me. I had some boxes and things outside, and I needed them put in the garage. And this person's always being like, I really, really want to be able to see one. I want to hear them, and my deal is we'll come out and we'll hang out, and I'm not going to tell you anything's going to happen. So they came out and was going to put these boxes away, and they kept hearing something walking in the woods right where they were. And then they had sticks thrown and some other things out of the woods, and they were like, I'm leaving. So right. I didn't hear from him, and I thought, what the heck? So I called and I said, did you get those boxes put up for me? Oh no, I'm not going back by myself.
Right.
And I said, well, what happened? Well, they were throwing sticks, and they were moving around out there, and I couldn't see them, but I could hear them, and I'm just gonna stay there. So it goes back to that: are you really ready or not?
Right. It's so funny, man, because we're just so funny as humans. The things that we do, or the excuses we make. Because I remember one time before I knew that there was forest people at the cabin. I remember one morning I came up, went into the cabin, and I was gonna get some coffee. One of the other guys had already gotten up, and I think I was probably my early 20s at this point, and we're all sitting around the cabin drinking coffee. Everyone's trying to wake up. And one of the guys, maybe, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes into the conversation, he goes, this morning I came up the hill and I walked out in front of the cabin, and he was like, right on the other side of the tree line. He's like, right inside the trees. He was like, he's like, I think he said, like, I felt like somebody might be standing there or something was there. And he was like, and then I heard somebody walk away. And he said somebody, he didn't say something. He said, I heard somebody walk away. And we're on 5,000 acres of private land, and it's in the middle of nowhere. So it's not a person. And and he said somebody walked away very slowly and very loudly. Like, it wasn't like stomping, but it was just like crunch, crunch, crunch. And he was like, so anyways, what do you guys want for breakfast? And that's the conversation was right there. And I was like, that's it? Like, I think about that a lot, because that's how a lot of that stuff goes. It's like we experience these things and we so easily either just dismiss it or discard it or make up an excuse for it or ignore it. And it's like, man,
Yep.
I think about that one a lot, because that might have been the one story that opened me up to the possibility of them being up there. Because I always thought forever that they were a West Coast only thing.
Mhm.
And so anyways, yeah, we're just so funny like that, because it makes me wonder how many things people have encountered that they just completely ignore. Like, I do have a
Right.
friend that I grew up with, and he's a city kid, and he was in a band and all this stuff, and he and his girlfriend went out. They went camping in West Virginia, and he told me the story. They were camping by the river in the middle of the night. Something walked up to their tent. They were camping right next to the river, and there was just rocks everywhere. He said something was walked up to their tent through the rocks, crunch, 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 and stood there right by their tent. And then he said, and then it just sounded like, he said, I don't know what it was, man. He was like, I heard rocks thrown. He's like, it sounded like a trash can got thrown, but there was no trash cans there. He's like, it just sounded like mayhem outside. And he was like, I was scared to death. And I was like, well, I'm not going to say her name, but I was like, what was, she doing? And he was like, she slept through the whole thing. And I was like, really? And he was like, and I don't know how. It was so loud. And I was like, well, what happened? He was like, nothing. It just walked away, but I heard it walk across the river, and it got quiet. And I was like, well, what do you think it was? He was like, it was a bear. And I was like, maybe. I was like, well, what, when you got up the next morning, what did it look like outside? He was like, nothing. He was like, nothing was moved. It was exactly the same as it was when we went to sleep. And I was like, that wasn't a bear, dude. And he was like, what else would it have been? And he was like, and it was like that defensive, like, it was almost like it would have hurt his feelings to admit it,
Yeah.
And yeah, we're funny.
Yeah. Yeah, we are. We are a unique species. That's for sure. And when it comes to people looking down on us, we have a really hard time with that. Saying something that people will say, "Oh, you made that up," or you and as a kid too, you see things so much more easily. And if you've got a parent or someone saying, oh, you just think you saw that.
Yeah.
And I've heard adults tell other adults, oh, you just think you saw that wasn't what you saw.
Right.
And people they'll back away from what they saw just because someone came up with that. And that's one of the things that I've tried to do, and you've tried to do, is be someone that people can come to. And it doesn't make any difference what they see or what they experience. We're going to listen. We're definitely not going to judge.
Right.
Their experience, because it is their experience, no matter what it was. I know years ago when I was young, UFO was just something that was a stupid thing. You think you're seeing this, or you think seeing this, and so it became something that only the weird people looked at and thought about. And we've taken everything that we know now and had someone say, a negative to that, and made you feel like you might want to question yourself. I'm lucky because I never had that type of thing. Oh, I had other people say it, outside the family, because even as a little girl, I would say anything to anybody. But I had that reinforcement, that you can say whatever happens, you can say, and I'm not going to tell you, you don't know what you're talking about. We're just going to talk about, what happened. So now my whole family wasn't like that. I can't say that. But I had a support system where so many don't have that support system that they need when they need to think things out about what they did see.
Yeah. And just, I mean, it's changed so much in the past, 10 years that I've been in this. I know it's changed a ton for you. And
yeah.
I mean, but that shows a lot about how, like, where things are headed. I think just how much it has changed and how it has opened up. And I think a lot of people expect it to open up all at once, or just to happen all at once, where people will just automatically like know or understand. And it's like, no, it happens like one person by one person by one person. It just, some people open up and then another person opens up, and it's like, it just slowly, it is seed planting. I mean, it really is. It's you're like one of the original people to start planting seeds, and now those seeds are starting to sprout. And I mean, to me, that's how Ascension is too. It's like, when Ascension it happens person by person. It's like you have your awakening, and then someone else has their awakening, and then it's like, I think a lot of people think that this all happens, we're all just gonna wake up one morning and everyone's gonna be
right,
like a highly enlightened individual. But it's like, it's like the 100 what's 100 monkey thing, or 100th monkey, or whatever it is. So yeah, when you have more people, the more people you have that are open to Sasquatch being able to mind speak and eye shine, and I mean, even come into your house like that. That's one of those things that you are an absolute crazy person,
yes, I know.
All right, exactly. And then from my personal experience, I thought the same thing until one morning I heard a little one run through my living room, 5 o'clock in the morning on Halloween, laying in bed, sun hasn't come up yet. And all of a sudden I hear on my hardwood floor, running through my living room, just flat feet, plop, 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 right through my living room. And I'm like, Kristen heard this too. She's like, what was that? And I was like, I don't know. Maybe it was the kids. So I got up and went to the kids' bedroom, and I like looked, and they were both passed out on the bed, like it wasn't them. And it wasn't like things that happened at that house before. So it wasn't like the first thing, something like that had happened. But when those things do happen to you, you have to accept it, and then be like, well, either I'm crazy or what Arla is saying is true. It's
yeah.
like,
yeah. Yeah. And that's the thing about sharing. The more people share, the more it helps others who have things happening.
Right.
And, like you were talking about Ascension being this like a beam of light come down and everybody has done it. And everybody's not at the same place.
Right. Exactly.
And that's what we're here for. We're here for an individual learning that connects us to the collective of everything. But in order to connect to that in a way of ascension, we have to come to that. And, you know, one of the things that I've seen too is people, they begin this journey and then something happens and they go, whoa, 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 no, I'm done. And it's like what the grandmother said to me one time: once you begin the journey, there are only two things that can happen. You can continue to learn and progress. You can go more and learn more. You can't stop and say, I've had enough. I don't want to learn anymore,
Right.
because what will happen is you will regress.
Mhm.
You won't stay in that spot that you are. When you have the opportunity to grow and progress, then if you just stop and say, nope, I'm done, then you'll begin to regress. Old ways will come back in, old thoughts will come back in. And so, you know, my deal was just, I want to keep learning. I want to keep understanding. I want to keep seeing things. And yes, sometimes it's painful, seeing things within myself. And, you know, you go into that, well, I should have handled that better. You know, I'm this or I'm that. And the one thing I know is when I get into that position, I have to start looking around for Coyote, because he's going to come. And, you know, we're going to have a buttectomy if I don't listen.
Yeah.
And if I don't let all this go and just let it flow through me, instead of trying to hold all these ideas of, well, I should be this or I should be that.
Right.
I am who I am. And when I walk through those things, I can either just freaking get mad and throw a fit, or I can learn something.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I've been in this elevated state of learning about myself over the last, well, since 2018.
Yeah.
And then that got started even more in 2019 with the wreck.
Yeah.
And there's so much, you know, to see and to let go of and revisit if you don't, you know, go through it and get it all worked through within yourself. Then you'll probably get to revisit it.
Mm-hmm.
And there'll be something new that you get to learn about that and about yourself. And it's not always, you know, sunshine and roses.
No.
Sometimes it's pretty hard to look at yourself and go, where did that come from?
But it's so rewarding. You know? It's so rewarding. Like, there's a lot of shadow work with this. I totally agree. I mean, that's the main thing that this starts off with, I think. And I think that with a lot of people, they you know, the Sasquatch people will show themselves to people to be the catalyst to make people wake up and then start working on themselves. And that's another hard thing for people to comprehend too. You know, when you say like when you go to learn about them, you'll learn more about yourself than you were about, you know, like this is a quest to learn about yourself more than anything. And when when you first said that, I was like, no, I get it. And I was, you know what I mean? I was like, oh, I get that. And then, but like more, like each year, more and more, I'm like, holy crap, like this is like, you know, how do I explain to people that what started my awakening process? You know, oh, I had a Sasquatch encounter. I'm like,
Mhm.
what? Like Kristen didn't even understand that. When I started learning about energy centers and chakras, and I started getting real spiritual, I remember several times she was like, she just couldn't put it together. She was like, so your Sasquatch encounter is what started this for you, And I was like, yeah. And she still, it's hard for people to put it together because, I mean, I guess if I sat down and like really thought about it, I'd be like, oh, that is kind of weird, you know? But yeah, there is so much shadow work that goes with this, because when you open yourself up and you realize who you really are, and you find your true self, and then you realize all the crap that you've got and all the baggage you've got and all the things you've done, and you got to let that crap go, and you've got to find it and work with it and let it go, and then you feel a little bit lighter, and then you find something else that you did and you're not proud of it, just accept it, give yourself a hug, and just say, you know what, just don't do it again. You're like, just let it go, and you feel a little bit lighter, and then you just let all this stuff go, and that's ascension. That's
Yeah, that's that
that's
rising up.
yeah. And
So,
that's and one by one, more people that do that, it just you get lighter, and your circle of friends gets lighter, and those circle, and then the energy gets higher, and the vibes get higher, and that's how we do it. And then it spreads. But I see a lot of people going back to like the spiritual ego thing that you kind of referenced earlier, where people get consumed with like spirituality and then kind of develop an ego with that and become like a martyr or whatever. I see a lot of people that when you wake up, and it's the Plato's cave thing too. It's like when you wake up and you realize something else, and you come back and you start telling your friends about all this stuff, and they tell you you're crazy. And then if you start calling them sheeple, or
mhm,
tell them they're idiots, or whatever, you guys are just
right.
asleep, you need to wake up, that's like, that doesn't help
No,
at all.
no,
That
it does
compounds it,
not.
so you
It
have to.
puts you back on that level
Mhm.
because you didn't truly understand where you should be. You're not about doing to others what they're doing to you. In other words, if someone doesn't believe what you say, you don't come at them and
Right.
tell them they don't know what they're talking about. That just, for me, was something that was very hard for me to understand, was why people want to come back at others. And it goes back to what I was taught. You don't act ugly to other people.
Right.
And if you say, this is who I am, and I'm love, and I'm sharing love, then you don't try to behead somebody
Right.
because they're not agreeing with your enlightenment.
Right. Right.
And that, one of the things I think, oh gosh, so many years ago, that was really a hard lesson for me. And the grandmothers were so wonderful helping me work through that, was that people who say they are enlightened sometimes aren't enlightened at all.
No.
And they're going to do things that are very much something that shows that their enlightenment is not the enlightenment that I seek to have in my life
Right.
and to share, with others. But there was this person that I thought so much of, and was supposed to be this spiritually evolved, enlightened person. And something happened, and I witnessed that happening. And that person saying things, and I was like, whoa, 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 wait a minute here. What's going on?
Right.
Why is this person doing this to this other person, and then saying these are the things we shouldn't do? And that's where I go back to that all the time. I'm going to walk my talk. I am not going to talk my walk. what I say about my walk is my walk. And that's how I want it to be. I don't want it to all be lip service and, none of it be what Arla should be doing. And, I goof up all the time.
Of course.
I'm human.
Right.
I work very hard not to do it and try to keep myself in the flow. But there are lots of stuff I have to learn too. So I get to learn. I'm signed up for this. So
Right. Exactly. And that's part of being human. If you were perfect, you wouldn't be here. You wouldn't have chosen to come back. You didn't have anything else to work through, unless you are an ascended master and or a bodhisattva, and you purposely chose to come back here to help humanity or help people. You're going to make mistakes. You're human,
yeah.
So,
And
yeah.
I get frustrated with us humans, but I love this human existence too. There is so much about the human existence that to me is just so wonderful. And, it's lots of learning and a lot of who we are as humans. Yes, I get frustrated. I get frustrated with myself, because I get frustrated with other things going on. But I like being a human now. I really do, because it's just so exciting right now as a human.
Exactly. Yeah. That's what happens when you open up to who you really are. Life's not boring anymore. Like I can sit outside and talk to a tree and be totally content. Like if I told myself, like if I had met me 20 years ago, I would have wanted to fight me. There's no doubt in my mind.
Oh my goodness.
And I was always looking for that next thing to do. I got to go here. I got to go on this trip. I got to go to this thing, get this thing. And I had I raced cars. I used to build race cars and did all this stuff to keep myself occupied. And if I wasn't doing those things, I was bored. And now I don't do any of those things really. And I'm happier now than I ever was. And that's part of being a human is great. It's really cool. And I think that, I just wish everyone would recognize that. But
yeah.
And going back to like talking down to people that aren't waking up or that are afraid to wake up or just aren't really getting it yet, it's like I see a lot of that now. I saw a lot of it last year and I see a lot of that now, and I'm like, it disheartens me because I just like it pushes a lot of people away, so like I know that you want people to all wake up and just understand, but that's just not how this works, man. It took me forever to wake up, and it's slowly, it's like a progressive thing. We slowly have to awaken. So you can't, if you tell somebody something and they're like just not getting it, and you think they're stupid or whatever, like that just hurts yourself. That hurts everybody. So just be patient with people, like love people, hold them in love, understand that they're just not ready yet. They'll get to it in their own time, and just hold a space for them. Like make a safe space for them, hold them in love. Don't push them, don't pressure them, just let them get it at their own pace. I mean, that's how our teachers and guides work with us. They're so patient and they wait. I mean, my God, how long did my guides wait for me to wake up? 30 something years, and they're just chilling. They know you'll get to it eventually. So you treat everybody like a spirit in a human. Everyone is a soul in a human. They're learning they're human. It's just like learning how to drive a car, like you got to learn how to do it. You got to learn how to, and then eventually you'll wake up and be like, oh wait, I'm not just a human, and then you can go to that person and be like, I told you, man, like, come over here, let me show you some more things, and it's like, I just wish everyone would just relax. We have so much time to get to that point. It doesn't have to happen right now. It doesn't have to happen next month. Like, we'll get there. If you're planning a redwood forest, you don't expect to see the redwood forest come to fruition in your lifetime. You know that you're planting the redwoods. It's going to take hundreds of years for them to grow. And it's not for you. It's for the next generation or your children or your grandchildren. It's for other people that are going to come down the road and experience the redwoods that you planted a couple hundred years ago. And then eventually you'll come back and you'll get to enjoy the redwoods that you planted a couple lifetimes ago or whatever. I mean, that's we're going to get.
Thank you for that, because hopefully I won't get all emotional here, because I've really been going through a lot of things, in especially with being here back on this place with so much going on and so much to do, and not being able physically yet to be able to do the things that need to be done. I have felt like I'm trying to plant a redwood forest and I want it now because I want to see it.
Right.
And that's exactly where I let a part of me go, to look at that. There's so much I want to do with this place, because of it being a place where people can come, where people are safe to talk about things, to learn about things. And that's always been an important thing. And now here it is, and I want it happening. And it's just, takes time.
Yeah.
And so I can plant this now, and I have planted it. The seeds were planted a long time ago, and they're just now beginning to swell. They still have to come up through the ground, and then there has to be that harvest, and that takes time. And that's pretty much where I've been. Yeah, is wanting that redwood forest now.
Right. Right.
And I can't have it right now. So yeah. I have what I have, and I'm so thankful for that too.
Yeah. And that goes back to the beginning of the conversation, also like me wanting to see, just wanting to see. And I was basically told, just patience, you'll get to it. You don't need to see it right now. I'm like, all right, fine. I'll wait,
Yeah. And like you said, we may not see everything come to fruition in this lifetime.
Exactly.
But we continue to plant and to nurture what it is we've planted, and no one's to say I can't come back the next time and bring everything in the way that I've seen it. It doesn't mean I won't do it this lifetime either, but it's just that it's not over after this lifetime. It's not over.
Mm-hmm.
It's just an intermission of what Arla, what Sam, what everyone else is going to purpose in their life. And when I totally understood that, it was like this gigantic burden had been lifted off of me, this huge weight of being concerned about, this has got to be done, and this has got to be done, and all this other stuff. And of course, this came to me so many years ago, even as a child, knowing that this wasn't the end. This lifetime is not the end. It's just a stepping stone to the next one. And one of the things I'm seeing that made me think of something, so many now who have come in to this lifetime are bringing things with them that they knew in a prior life. They're coming into this life as a baby and having all of these abilities that they can do that they were not taught in this lifetime.
No.
They brought it with them.
Mhm.
And I really like that. I really like that a lot,
Mhm.
seeing that.
Yeah, my kids, both of my sons, like Dublin, he's seen spirits since he's been able to talk. And we're working through that, because at first it was, he was like, I see a ghost. I remember, man, the first time he ever said that, I remember it was the night before Thanksgiving. It was Thanksgiving Eve. We had just driven to Kristen's in-laws, or Kristen's grandparents. And I opened up the car door to get Dublin out, and he looked up, and there was a tree under or over the car, and he looked at the tree and he said, there's a ghost in that tree. And he's never mentioned ghosts before or anything to that point. And I said, really? What's he doing? He's like, nothing. And I was like, okay, cool. And he saw spirits, and he used to see him in the house, and he would say, there's a spirit in the bathroom, in your closet, or in the walk-in closet of your bathroom. And I was like, well, what's it doing? And he said, she's just standing there with her mouth open. I was like, okay, well,
I
is
love
she,
it.
is she doing anything? And he'd be like, no. But he started to get a little scared of it as he got older. So now we're working through that. Kingston, on the other hand, Kingston is the oldest soul I know, I think. He, man, I wish it's in this other room. I would get up and grab it. But one day we were sitting at the table, and this is when I really realized who he is. We were sitting at the table, and we were both being quiet, and he was drawing. I don't remember what I was doing. I might have been reading a book or something. And he drew a picture, and it completely blew me away. He drew in the middle of the picture. It was like a heart, and it said, "Life is love in your heart." And around it was like all these people, like all their faces, and they were all had different expressions. And he was probably like 3 when he drew this. And I was like, well, where did you get that? Where did that come from? He was like, I don't know. I just came to me. And I was like, it's so like, I think a lot of people would take it as surface value or for surface value, but like, life is love in your heart. I mean, that is exactly what life is. And it just blew me away. And then he told Kristen one day, she said, well, what do you think you're going to do when you get older? And he said, I'm just going to teach people how to love. And I was like, man, like, it's just it's so cool what kids come here to do. And then if they're lucky enough to not get burdened down with the weight of the world, and they're allowed to do what they want to do, it's like, man, the future's going to be so bright with these kids that
Oh
are
yeah.
coming.
Yeah.
And it's not just my kids. I'm not trying to like hold my kids up on a pedestal. I'm just saying, like, their friends say stuff all the time that catches me off guard, and I'm like, wow, like,
Yeah.
these kids are special, the kids that are coming into the world now. So yeah, I totally understand that.
Yeah. And we definitely need to nurture them and not shut them down, because they are going to make such a big difference
Yeah.
in this world.
Right.
And yeah, it excites me. And if you open yourself up and listen to children, sometimes it'll blow you away.
Mhm.
I mean, you're like, where did you get the hat?
Right. Yeah.
And uh and so you go, wow, that's just too cool. And you chose me to come into this world as your parent.
Right.
I that really
Yeah.
makes you happy.
Yeah. Kids are here. The kids that are here right now are here to do work.
Hmm.
They came here to do work. And like, we're making that redwood forest for them. Like, that's what we're doing right now. Like, we might not see ascension in this lifetime, like, because it's a process. It's not something that happens overnight. At least, like, this is from what I've come to understand through you know doing the things that we do to get to know these things. That's extremely vague, and I'm sorry, but it's just that's all I can really say. But like, we're going to get to, it's going to come in stages and steps, and we're going to get there, and it's going to be great. I'm not saying like everything you're going to do is just going to be, you're not going to get to reap any of the spoils in this lifetime. I'm just saying, like, we're going to get there, and our kids are going to get there, and they're going to get to live. If we keep spreading the love and being like who we're supposed to be, like, man, we're going to make such a great world for our kids and for our grandkids, and for whenever we come back in a couple 100 years or 50 years or whatever, you know, like if when we pass on and then we come back, it's just going to be so much better. And like that's just what you got to keep doing. We just got to keep being open and being loving and accepting, and not call people stupid or sheeple. Just love them for where they are, and they'll get there when they get there.
Yeah. You know, that's like this thing with the kids, saying these things and bringing these things, you know, forward. It just tells us that we are getting closer. We are getting closer to understanding truly who we are. And I mean, we already know who we are within us, and we have glimpses of that. And some of us know more today than they knew 20 years ago about, you know, who they are. But seeing these children really says, you know, things are going right. Things are going good. That's just, for me, that's that affirmation that, yeah, what I've been doing is what I'm supposed to be doing. And I'm looking forward to doing more in this lifetime and in the next lifetime. However, you know, I come back as to whomever I am
Right.
at that next time. And so that's that thing that says, yeah, you humans are getting it. And all of these children who have come in like this are just that affirmation that says, yeah, think about, you know, what's going to happen with this next generation now. It's just going to become more and more and more. And, you know, some people are going to totally understand it and get it, and some people won't. Right. And that's just how, you know, that story goes. It makes me happy because I know it's affirmation for me too. That, you know, things are being done as they should be done. And I really like that.
Yeah. And I feel privileged in a way too, because I've seen, you know, I had a near death experience, and I got like a taste of what's on the other side. And like you said, it took away all the pressure and like the burden or like I guess fear of just making sure that, you know, because growing up, we're basically taught, like, in this Western culture, Western society that we live in, we're basically taught, like, you get one shot at this, don't mess it up. And it's like, man, that's a lot of pressure, especially on a kid. And if you mess up, what you're gonna do, because you're human, if you mess up, they make it seem like you've ruined your life. You blew it. Now you're going to hell for eternity. It's like, no, why? No. Like, don't teach kids that, man. That's so heavy. That's so heavy. And when I experienced that, and then I experienced it again later on, man, it's just like, you just wake up like, you know, like, oh, this is great. Like, because no matter what happens in this life, when you pass, you're good. It's good. Like, it's all I can say is that what I experienced, it made me almost not want to come back, because it was so peaceful, so relaxing. All that crap is just not there.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, I totally understand that knowing that, you know, it is, and there have been times when I've been that close to something, I didn't want to come back to this reality. I didn't want to go on either, but it was like I love this feeling. I want to be in this feeling because I'm understanding, I'm understanding where this is going. I'm not looking at a wall at the end of this lifetime. I'm
Right.
looking at something that's so much more wonderful than that wall.
God, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and kids come here knowing that. I think when we're
Yeah,
born, when we're born, we know that, and then we
yeah, we
lose it.
do.
And it's our job to make sure that kids don't lose that, because kids came here to bring it here. They want to bring, that's the same thing that we want now. We want to make the world a better place, and we want
Yeah.
to make the world great for everyone and for our kids. And the way we do that is by bringing that here, like
Mhm.
doing the work, because we manifested here to do the work for God. Like, we are source. We are each a
Mhm.
fractal manifestation of source here to do the work, to make this a better place, to create ascension, to lift the world up, make the world a better place for everybody. And you know, I think it gets to the point where some people think that we just wait for it to happen. Like, you wait for ascension to happen, but it's like, um we make ascension happen. Like, we're the ones that do it.
That's right.
That's why we're here. That's why we decided to come here. We decided to come here to make this world a better place. So the one thing you can do, if you don't do anything else, just be a nice person. Just be nice.
Yeah,
Bring that love from the other side through your heart into this world, and create the world that you want by living that life, by walking your walk, walking your talk. Like, be it. Don't just talk it. Don't talk down to people that aren't doing it. You have to do it. Make that, like, you be the example, and it'll change. Like, that's, I mean, how many sages and saints and rishis, and they say it all the time: to change the world, you have to change yourself. I mean, it's been said by millions of people throughout history. Like, that's how you change the world. You don't change other people, you change yourself. So,
that's it. That's it. And be the light
mhm,
that you are.
mhm,
And that light, when you shine that light, which is the basis of love, love creates that light. and
mhm,
and I'm not just talking about love of a person, or
right,
love of a place, or it is so much more when you feel that love. And that is one of the things that the Sasquatch are very good at helping with, is to help to put us in that space. But I've also felt that space with the grandmothers
mhm,
as well. But I just hear too many people talking about, who are getting to know more about themselves through their association with the Sasquatch. And they are just so wonderful at bringing that, when we let down all of those guards and all of those things, and feel that. It just, if I could give that to everybody,
yeah,
if I could just say, here, have some of this, have some of this, I certainly would. But there again, I know this is all our own learning about these things, but to want that for other people to feel that love, that space that transcends anything I could ever say to describe what it is. Because I just really don't think there are any words
no,
that you could express to get someone to understand it. It's just that you got to feel it
mhm,
to understand it.
yeah. I mean, God is love. I don't remember what verse in the Bible that was, but Um, I mean, that's what I've lived. That's what I saw on the other side. It was love and light. And so you hear that thing that's turned into kind of a cliche, you know, love and light, love and light. But that's what it was. That's what we are.
Yeah.
We just manifest into these bodies, just collected matter that's, you know, a little bit denser. And when we move on, we are like, that's what we are to our core, is just love and light. It's yeah, like you said, it's not love like what we have diminished it to here on this physical realm of like, man, I sure do love those shoes, or I sure do love this. It's like, yeah, there's no words. So, sorry, my son came in. I don't know if you saw the reflection on it.
I did.
Yeah, he blew me a kiss.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's I don't know. Yeah, there's no words. It's just but I'm pretty sure everyone's experienced it or felt it. And when you go and you do the shadow work, and you lift all those things off that are holding you down, it allows you to get to that point where your heart can open up enough to experience that. And yeah, the Sasquatch people are phenomenal at that. Star people too. Like there's
yes, and the grandmothers, the
right.
ancestor grandmothers. You know, my first true encounter of feeling that totally was with them, and most of my experiences have been have a twist of coyote in them. It's just part of what I brought with me this time, you know. So I never know. And one of the stories was years ago. I was meditating, and this was back when they had cassettes, and the grandmothers and I were going to go on a journey together in this meditation. And so I had put the cassette tape in my player to just play some really nice music. And so I'm playing my music, and I had it set to where it would loop back around and play again. And so I was in with them, and that feeling just was phenomenal. I was free of everything. There was nothing holding me. I was total free spirit, all of that, everything rolled in, not a worry, not a care, not anything, just in that space. And I don't know how long I had been in it. And the grandmothers said, granddaughter, you need to come back. And I said, I don't want to come back. I want to stay here. Mm-hmm. And they said, no, granddaughter, you have to come back. And I was like, but grandmothers, I want to stay here.
Right.
And, you know, they would kind of shake their head at me. And, you know, again, granddaughter, you need to come back. And I started to say, please let me stay just a little longer. Mm-hmm. And I had a very loud cassette, some rock music in the other side of my cassette. And all of a sudden it clicked on that, and it was like, and I just sat straight up, and they were just shaking their head at me. And, you know, like, she has to push that envelope. Yeah. And, you know, the truth was, I wanted to stay in that space because it felt so good. But it was time for me to come back, because we cannot stay in that space all the time. Now we have things that we have to do. Yeah. But the things that I've learned with them were almost kind of funny, And I think during that time period, there was this pious thing going on. And so it also helped to stem my feelings of what I see, piosity. I, I was in that space of connecting with everything. So, but that's where, you know, we have to go. We deal with our guides and those who come to help us, and they're all have their own personality and way of helping us. You know, for me with Kashima, it's been very much like a grandfather and a grandmother in his teaching with me, very kind and very loving, yet very strong.
Yeah.
And that's meant a lot to me, you know, to have that learning with him.
Yeah. Yeah, that's how I feel with V. It's very grandmothery. Yeah. That just brought me back to something I experienced a couple of years ago. Yeah, I understand people's hesitancy to accept some of this stuff, you know. It just keeps going back to things we talked about earlier, but yeah, I mean, it is kind of hard when you're so when we're taught basically everything from childhood up through fear. Like that's been the foundation of everything that we're taught basically is fear based, you know, like this is dangerous, don't do that. These are the people that, you know, like this is what's going on with the world, this is what's wrong with the world, and these are the people that are doing it. And you know, it's like this fear-based conditioning and fear-based programming that we're taught from childbirth all the way through. I mean, currently still now. And so we live through fear because, I mean, we live, that's part of the thing that we're trying to ascend beyond or get past is that grapple that like fear has on all of us. It's just, and so when, you know, if you go out in the woods and you have a Sasquatch encounter and you don't know anything other than fear, you know, and monsters and stuff like that, and you see a 10-foot tall hairy person in the woods, you know, first thing that's going to go to your head is monster, tried to kill me. You know, like threw a stick at me, threw a rock at me, broke a tree branch, screamed really loud. That's like people's worst nightmare, literally. But I just, if there's one thing, I've had the crap out of me before. I totally understand. So I'm not knocking anybody that gets scared by them, because they've scared me before, and it's not like they do it on purpose. It's just, it's like me, and it's like my fear that I bring with me, and it makes me on edge, and then they'll do something that scares me after death. And that was one of the first lessons that I was taught by them. Was, I mean, it was literally if you want to be scared, I'm going to give you something to be scared about type thing. And they brought me to my limit, and I know where my limit is now. So it was a lesson in that, but I get it, you know, like they'll scare you sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And but they're not monsters, man. They're not, they're just, you got to let that go, and you got to go in and got to open your heart, open your mind to any possibility, open your understanding to the fact that maybe that 10-foot tall hairy person in the woods is very spiritually advanced and is at a totally other level, and they might not want to tolerate any of your human crap right now. But just open up to it, you know, open up to the fact that maybe they're really smart, maybe they're very intelligent, maybe they can teach you a thing or two about existence and life, and and then you're going to see so much stuff if you do that, man. It's just, it's incredible.
And they chose to be here on this planet and to live in a manner with this planet that is a total connection to everything on this planet. They chose to do that. Who better to learn how to live on this planet in a good way than someone who chose to live sustainably and connected to the mother.
Yeah, as one with mother, as one with nature. Yeah, I mean, that's where we parted ways with them, right? Where we decided that we wanted to change our environment around us instead of changing ourselves for the environment. And I guess that's pretty much what Ascension is. It's just changing ourselves to the environment instead of changing everything around us to,
Yep.
Yeah. Well, I probably should check up on these boys. They're getting a little
we're at
rambunctious.
10 o'clock, so we've kind of got a Seinfeld show going on here. It's a show about absolutely nothing.
Right. Well,
that is everything in the world.
Right. But I mean, that goes back to me being happy just sitting in front of a tree and talking to a tree.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I'd be happy to be a tree. So, yeah.
Yeah. All right. I can hear there's a lot of movement in the room next to me, so I'm gonna go check on them. But next time I'll let them come on.
That'd be awesome.
I was in the middle of a rant, so I kind of shoot him away when he came in here, but now I feel bad, so I'm gonna go give him a hug. All right. Well, it's been a good talk. I hope some seeds were planted. And love you guys. Love you.
Yeah. Love you too, and love you guys. And as Friggin would say, share the love.
Yeah, spread the love.
That's what we gotta do.
And I'm sorry, I totally lost track. I got into the conversation and I didn't keep up with the comments, and I'm sorry. So
I think we need to go back through the comments and do a show on the
we should.
From the prior show. So we can get all the comments together and go through them.
Yeah. All right. Well, good night, guys.
Good night.
See you.